What's up, guys? Welcome to another Method Man episode. Today, this lesson is about System of Linear Inequalities. It's a really easy lesson if you know how to graph linear inequalities, and you're basically just graphing multiple graphs on the same coordinate plane. Here are the steps, and here are the problems we're going to go over. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you need more math help. Let's just get to it. Okay, for this first question, we'll start with the top one. It's in slope-intercept form. Luckily it is, and that's really easy to graph. Just pretend like it's a linear equation, a regular linear equation, and that says that you're going to start at -2, which is your y-intercept. If this doesn't have a number, it's got an imaginary -1 on it. And I like to make that into a fraction so you know your rise over run. If I were to graph that, I would start at -2, like what we said. That's your y-intercept, and then you just follow your slope. Down 1 over 1. Don't forget that that is less than or equal to, meaning that your line is going to be solid like this. I'm going to try to draw the straightest line I can. It's good enough. It's not going to be perfect. If it's an inequality, that means you have to shade a certain region, and you do that by creating a test point. So the easiest test point, your teacher probably said this, is the point 0, 0. And that's my test. I plug that into the inequality and see if it's going to make a true statement. So y is 0, I'm going to put that in, less than or equal to -1 times 0. So I'm just following this equation right here and substituting my test point. -2, and then clean it up a little bit. -1 times 0. That's the beauty about plugging in 0. You don't even need a calculator. -1 times 0 is 0. So you're left with -2 on the right side, and then you try to see if that statement is true or not. 0 is less than or equal to -2. That is a bogus answer. That is false. And since your test point is false for that blue line, then you know that you gotta shade the bottom section of the graph, which is gonna look like that. So that is half the problem, guys. I'm not gonna try to color that perfectly. Alright, now let's deal with the pink equation. It is also in slope-intercept form. And if that is not a fraction, if my slope is not a fraction, I like to put it over 1 so you know your rise over run. This says that my y-intercept is 2, so that is my first point on the y-axis, and then I'm going to follow my slope, which is that down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. And it also lands on that blue dot. Look at that, it says equal to. So that's going to be a solid line. And let's just pretend like that blue line wasn't there. So you're either shading to the left of this pink line or to the right of this pink line. And you're going to repeat what you just did. You're going to choose a test point, and you can choose any point, but I keep using 0, 0 because those are really easy to plug into any inequality. Y is 0, so we're going to put that in. Greater than or equal to -5 times 0 plus 2. Like, you could do this in your head. -5 times 0 is 0 plus 2. You're left with a +2. So that statement is saying 0 is a greater or equal to number than 2, which is false. That is false. No, sir. Since you know that that test point for the pink line is false, then you know that you are shading the right-hand portion of that pink graph, which looks like that. And if you notice, there is a certain section that they overlap, and I'm going to try to emphasize that and highlight it even better. This portion right here, and I'm going to darken it, is the area that they have in common, and that represents the solution to to the system of linear inequality. That means if I choose any random point in this section and I were to plug it into both equations, they will come out with a true statement. So that is your solution. Let's try another problem. So if your teacher requires you to manipulate this inequality and solve for y, it's not even that hard to do, then do that. So I'm left with 2y is more than or equal to, I like to put this in order right away. So you can write this as negative 3x minus 2. That way it's in slope-intercept form right away. And then divide by 2. And you get y is more than or equal to negative 3 halves x minus 1. Now we can graph that. That is the same inequality as this one. We just changed it into a different version. So that means I start at negative 1 and I go down 3 because it's negative. Don't forget that. And to the right 2. 1, 2. I got my line. Make sure you pay attention that it's going to be a solid line because that equals down there. And that is my line so far. Since it's an inequality, I am going to have to shade either the left side of this or the right side. And the best way to do that is to pick a test point. I'm going to pick that one. Test 0, 0. If that comes out true, that means that is the side that you shade. So we pop that in. 0 is more than or equal to negative 3 halves times 0 minus 1. You don't need a calculator for that. If you do, you got to work on your mental math. Negative 3 halves times 0 is just 0 minus 1. And 0 is greater than or equal to negative 1. My test point is true, meaning that is this side that I shade. So that's the first equation. If you don't want to solve for y, we'll mark this the blue equation, then you can make a 0, 0 table like this. X plus 2y. Let's just say it equals 2, so we could just get our line. And make a 0, 0 table to get your x and y intercepts. That will get you 2 points right away that you're going to graph onto the coordinate plane. So the first part, if I put 0 in for x, all I'm going to be left with is this. 2y equals 2. That's just 2y equals 2. Divide by 2. So y equals 1. So I'm just trying to make points so I can graph and see what that blue inequality looks like. 0, 1 is right up here. And then do the same thing for this table, except we're going to replace y with 0 now. And I'm going to do it over here. X plus 2 times 0 equals 2. And once you get good at this, you could probably do it in your head. And that's why I like doing it this way. X equals 2. There's my other point, 2, 0. And there is my line. It's going to look something like this. I'm going to try my best to draw that line. There we go. Oh, lucky me. Alright, now I got what that blue line looks like. So I'm either going to shade above that blue line or I'm going to shade below that blue line. Once again, I can choose that 0, 0. As long as that 0, 0 is not on the line, that's always going to be my go-to test point. And then I plug that into the original inequality. 0 plus 2 times 0 is less than or equal to 2. I end up getting 0 is less than or equal to 2. And that is true. That is true. So my 0, 0 is the section that I'm going to shade for that blue part, which is this. Blue and pink makes purple, I think. Right? I think that makes purple. But you can see that there's a section that overlaps each other. And that, my friend, is the solution to your inequality, system of inequalities. Alright, We'll try to go through this one super fast. This one, I mean, if you look at it, sometimes it's faster to go straight into slope-intercept form, because in this inequality, it's one step. All you got to do is subtract 4x. That we're going to graph right away. So that says start at 2. This does not have the equals sign under it this time, so that's going to be a dotted line that looks like that. Wow, that was horrible. Alright, 0, 0 is not on my line, so that is always my go-to point. And I'm going to plug that in. That's going to be my test point. I'll mark this as my test. 0 is less than -4 times 0 plus 2. See if that comes out true, and it does. That's true. So the section that is true is the side that you're going to shade. That is going to look like that. As far as this equation, super easy to graph. Don't overcomplicate it. Here's how I explain it. If this says y, then your point is going to go on that axis. So it's going to be on the y-axis, which is right here, right? And it is going to be a line that cuts through that number. And it looks like a straight line like that. And don't forget, it's dotted because it doesn't have the equal sign under it. Next, I'm either going to shade above this or below. And we go back to our favorite number, 0. That's going to be my test point for blue also. And you see if that's true. 0 is greater than -2. That is true. Meaning that I'm going to shade right above this, and you can start seeing the areas where they intersect. We'll darken that right over here. So that area that they have in common is the solution to the inequality. Hope that lesson helped. Sometimes there is a scenario where they won't have an area that they have in common, and in that case you just put no solution. Anyways, if this video helped, make sure you throw a like and a subscribe, and let me know if you need more math help. I will see you on the next episode. Peace.